Now there's a song on your record called "Song in My Mouth," and the words to it are a poem by E. Cummings.
Yeah.
Is he somebody you have been you have read a lot of stuff of and you like?
Yeah, I guess so. Mm-hmm.
Where do you see a connection between his poems and the music you create?
It's hard to say sometimes why you pick something up and why you're obsessed with it, but it's very important to follow it, because usually 2 or 3 years later you figure out why, and then it's too late because you're not in that emotional place anymore. So I think it has got something to do with his faith in quiet ecstasy, and sort of being very, very humble, but completely enormous. I think it's a very rare, usually when people are about that sort of obsessed with climax, as most of his poems are, like so completely ecstatic and euphoric, they usually go a little bit arrogant or pompous or but he never, he's always humble. So I guess in this album I was very focused on that, to reach like a very, very grand sound, especially with the choirs. There's a lot of songs with big choirs, but to always be humble. And it's usually these two things are opposite in life.
Yeah.
But I was very fascinated by this emotional state.
Till my thighs are steeped in burning flowers, I will take the sun in my mouth and leap into the ripe air, alive with closed eyes, to dash against darkness in the sleeping curves of my body. I shall enter fingers of smooth mastery with chismes of secrets. Will I complete the mystery of my flesh? Will I complete the mystery of my flesh? My flesh.
Someday you mentioned that you're searching the perfect pop song, searching to write the perfect pop song, a song that people age 3 and age 90 can listen to and appreciate it. Are you still like hunting for that song?
Yeah, for sure. But I'm very aware of it's a long way to go. You know, I always had these romantic ideas about uniting different worlds, and also I'm very interested in uniting abstract, because I think big chunk of our lives are pretty abstract, if you like it or not. You know, the noises we hear and all these things. and then also, of course, the opposite, which is the narrative, and obviously coming from a country which is obsessed with storytelling, I'm very obsessed with the narrative. So yeah, I'm still looking, but I have a long way to go.
I think it was Damien Hirst from the BBC once asked, some reporter asked him, was one of these things, art pieces, he said, well, I could have done that, but then Damien said, yes, but you didn't, yeah, which I think is interesting to say that basically everybody could do it.
Yeah,
would you agree?
For sure. I think everybody could do it, and also, for me, maybe I'm not so concerned about if it's creative or not. Because it's a funny word. Maybe because I'm brought up with such working class situation and with the people I admire most, like my grandmother and my grandparents and my family. If you would look at their passport, no one of them says artist, you know. But for me, all of them have been very brave and completely stood by what they are made of, and sometimes just to take care of, you know, a lamp shop is very creative thing, or to feed 8 children can be a very pro-life statement, with all the hindrances and everybody wanting to stop you. And my grandfather, he will show me a fireplace he has just made, and Polaroid of it, just as proud as I was playing my song. So, yeah.
It's all creative.
For me, it is.
You once said something about Vespertine in that some of the stuff was done in anticipation of the idea of Napster so that people could download it. What did you mean?
Yeah, I guess Vespertine was partly done like that. Just those kind of chats I have with my mates who do music too.
Yeah.
And they would complain about hearing the songs downloaded, and they would be like, ugh, you know, it's destroying my music. And I guess just the prankster in me saying, listen, you know, folk music was always about taking your environment and using it to do a tune. So our environment now is that. So those kind of limitations should be a turn on. You know, usually they are. The less freedom you have, it's sort of, you have to use more creative imagination, and it's sort of a turn on. So I guess I used the only acoustic instrument I used for the album were harps, celestes, and music boxes that actually, once downloaded, they sound even better, you know. And the voice, just the mood of the internet, for me, is very secretive. And every time I get an email, I felt like somebody told me a secret. And it's very...
Did you like that?
I quite like that,
Yeah,
yeah.
me too.
And that it's very... And my vocals are quite whispery.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of secretive. And actually that it's more like you know, the virtual reality aspect of it. It is actually more how things happen, our thought process, you know. Sort of, there's no oxygen, and it just goes, you know, like more electric sort of things. So I kind of wanted to make the album a little bit like that. That it's not kind of physical and blood on the outside. It's kind of more internal.
And listening to Vespertine, it seemed to me that it was possibly your least immediate album, and yet it's become your fastest selling album, isn't it? How do you come to terms with that, or explain it?
I don't know. I guess it's been this peculiar thing ever since I left the Sugar Cubes and I played my songs for the record company. And he said, this is very strange, this will sell the third of the Sugar Cubes. And I said, well, fair enough, I still have to do it, you know. And it seems the more idiosyncratic or selfish I get, the more people like it or something. I don't know, maybe there's not even a formula there.
No.
But I guess I just have my own mission and I have to follow it. And if people are still curious and interested, that makes me very happy, you know?
Well, you said the Vespertine was really made, unless I misunderstood, that it was made for you to listen to at home, because it is an album about home and the inner self, and read a good book while you're listening to the album. But then I thought, I tried it, and it works really well.
Yeah.
But then doesn't Björk become background music?
People like Eric Satie or Claude Debussy did music, and they aimed to do music that was called, in French, furniture music. But probably doesn't translate very well.
The musique de meuble.
Something, I'm not sure. French is not my strong point. But it's sort of, they wanted the music to be like part of the room that you're in, that you're not, it's not narrative. It's not like a person that's speaking to you. It's someone who's just there and makes you feel good, you know? And then maybe later in the century you had someone like Brian Eno, who did, then the music got probably a title that's more known, which is called ambient music, which is, and I guess it's still a debate. Do you want music to be very narrative and very like, hello, listen to me with headphones, notice me? Or if you want it to be just kind of like around you, like a beautiful room that makes you do the things you want to do, you know? And is the music the main role, or are you the main role? That's sort of the question in a way. And I think for me personally, both have a right to exist.
It's obviously important for you to keep moving on, and some would say that horrible phrase about reinventing yourself every time. I don't think that, but what is it that drives you to move on? If you found a successful formula as a chef, you're going to sell the same recipe for the rest of your life. When you're a musician and an artist like you are, what is it, that drive to bring something new rather than more of the same?
I think it's just nature. It's not in nature's nature to stay the same. For example, your hair, you know, you have to...
Don't talk about my hair. I haven't got
you have to cut it. No, it grows. It's with normal people, they have hair and then it grows, and then it grows, and then they cut it or whatever.
Yeah.
But with people who are in my job, they have hair and then it grows and they've changed their image, you know.
Yeah.
And they reinvented themselves.
Yeah, silly.
So I think everybody changed. Yeah, it's a feel-good factor, I think. Probably more than courage.
Are those your decisions, what you wear and how you show yourself? Do you have people advising you, and do you choose things, or is it you or someone else?
Well, I decide what I wear, yeah. But I have a lot of friends who are really obsessed with clothes. So I'm surrounded by good people.
Your voice, right? For me, and I'm sure for lots of other people, it's the only voice that I've ever heard that can bring me to tears. Some of the things you reach, and not with words, with sounds. When did you discover? How young were you when that happened?
I don't know. I guess as a child I sang a lot. You know, my mom would take me to the bus in the morning, and I would actually be a Julie Andrews. I would actually stand up and walk back and down the bus and want to sing and make everybody happy, you know, and which is a bit sick.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, so I think from very early on, I definitely, and I've heard, I think a lot of singers have that, you know, they kind of, like when I remember going on school trips, and the other kids would ask me if there was a long drive back or something, they would ask me to sing.
Born, stubborn me will always be. Before you count 1, 2, 3, I will grow my own private branch of this tree.
and I guess with people who have similar job as I have, it gets misunderstood, and kind of thinking maybe the media and maybe you go lazy because you've been doing it for so long. You say, okay, I've given this arm. Okay, and then I give this arm. And so you kind of get confused and start giving things that maybe nobody wants, or the media will ask for things that is nobody's business. And then you stop giving what you wanted to give in the first place. But there is still, if like before this album, and I wanted to tidy it all up again and say, okay, let's look at this very clearly, that there is still a part of me that has hope and wants to give and communicate something that is quite private, but it has nothing to do with my everyday life still. It is still this bubble, this kind of fantasy fairy tale bubble. I seem to be able to get better and better at what I do. For me, I believe in emotion is above all. Probably is not a very modern thing. No, I think a songwriting has to come, or music making has to come from emotional place. I guess for me there's two kinds of politics. It's the sort of what usually is called politics, which is sort of power struggles and on a sort of international level. And then there's the other politics, which I think I deal with, which is about do you get along with the people you love, and those kind of relationships, or those kind of personal politics. I think it's very important in times of war is to not forget the personal politics, if you want, that and I think music is about that. I don't think the way to deal with the September 11th is to sit down and write a song about it. I think you have to sit down and write a song about something else, because there are more things in the world than Bush and Bin Laden. I guess in my case is when you can create, when you're in a position where you can create either music or communicate with the people you love. And it's so strong that it's the same on the outside as it is on the inside. Or same passion is maybe a better word. And then it's sort of is even, like it's the flow is kind of even. And then I feel very, very happy.
So needy of comfort, but too raw to be embraced. Undo this privacy and put me in my place. A generous palm stroke, the hugest of hugs. Undo this privacy and embrace me, embrace me. I am strong in his hands. I am beyond me and my own. I am human and I too falls. She's strong in his hands. She is beyond her. On her own she is human and she does strong in his hands. She's strong in his hands. She's strong in his hands. She's strong in his hands.
I think people are free to think what they want. I think the nature of most musicians is generosity. You really want to give, and you actually, when you're 3 or 4, you actually stand up on a table in the kitchen and you want to sing a song that will make all the upset people in the kitchen happy. And even though you become a grown-up, that's still what lies behind it all. I think after all the interviews I did and all the paparazzi and the media attention and this kind of feeling of being robbed, I had to starting thinking the solution was not to give anything away, and then sitting down and think, wait a minute, that's not right, and try to figure out why you started doing it in the first place, you know. And I think people with my job, they sincerely want to give, but they, of course, like in any human relationships, they want to choose what they give and what they don't give, you know. And I can promise you that there are 900 things that I didn't say that I would like to prefer to keep to myself.
Yeah. People often say, don't they, that your music's avant-garde or weird, which doesn't seem right. But on the other hand, it's not easily categorised pop music, is it? But I always think it's more like the second generation of pop music. What you're doing, and bands like Radiohead as well, you're sort of taking this whole medium forward. Are you conscious of wanting to take the medium forward? Is being at the cutting edge and pushing that boundary forward something that you really want to do?
I want to make music that I would like to walk now to Tower Records and buy a CD that would like save my life. I've done that so many times, and I've walked out really disappointed, and it's a lot of times I walked out like in heaven, you know. So I think that's what I aim for. I think if you aim for being cutting edge, it's just going to be empty. It's not going to be. It's just going to be too clever or something. I like to move forward for sure. I think, but I don't think of it maybe as moving forward. I think it's more about being truthful.
Did a gig in London, but you chose the Royal Opera House. Was that a conscious move to move away from pop venues, or was it just a fantasy that you wanted to be on stage in Covent Garden?
Well, it just started off being purely musical decision to go for the acoustics. Because having a lot of harps and a choir and orchestra and electronic noises, like the world that's on Vespertine, you can't play that in Town and Country Club. You know, it would just be like drowned in lager and screams, you know. And so I started looking for places like theatres and churches, chapels, galleries, just anything that was built for acoustic music. And operas, that's what they are built for, you know. But believe me, it was not my target. Thinking, oh, all of a sudden I'm a classical musician. I mean, the music I make, the heart of it, is folk music or pop music. I don't think it's classical music. Or, yeah. I mean, I was very honored about the comments people made about that, but I think at the heart, I'm a pop musician, and I have education. I could have gone pretty serious composer style, but I had that choice, but I didn't choose that because it's not what my mission is.
You actually performed the songs from Vespertine for the first time here in New York in this very church. Was it really kind of scary to be performing really such personal music in kind of a holy place?
It was actually, as much I've been playing live since I was a teenager. This was kind of the most feeble situation because it just didn't know where to start.
Yeah.
And first we played songs in our rehearsal room and invited, I think, 5 friends over. Mm-hmm. And then we played them again in the rehearsal room and invited 40 people over, friends.
So you build up to a comfort level.
Yeah. And then we played here.
I saw an interview of Björk, then I realized that she's trying to express her music, and we help her expressing the music that she wants to give. We're like an instrument. This is the first time we ever worked together as a choir. Björk put us together. And some of the girls haven't even been on choirs before.
But everybody has some kind of, you know, they have been singing. Some of them are recording artists.
Yeah, but they're most solo singers.
Yeah.
So I think we're doing a pretty good job.
I think the last puzzle for the tour was the choir. I knew I wanted some vocals, and I had ended up recording with an English choir that was very neutral, and they would sing all these things we asked them to sing, and then we would chop them to pieces and kind of use bits and change them and put effects on it and all sorts of things. So we used them more as a material. Then just before the tour, I decided to go on a 3-week holiday and went just to the place I wanted to go myself, and went to Greenland, and realized after like 3 days that, you know, of course, you know, it should be a Greenlandic choir. So I put advertisements in the supermarkets that were there, and would put a little announcement on the radio, and then I would start auditioning in a hotel I was staying at, and ask them to sing. Each girl had to sing one song. Some of them would sing Greenlandic folk songs, Inuit, which I was, of course, very pleased with. Other ones would probably try to impress me with me being a European pop star, and bleach their hair and sing ABBA songs, which was very, very interesting, but maybe not what I was looking for.
Thank you.
Yeah, the first tour I did, the debut, I did auditions and hired session people, and everybody did what they were told. So we rehearsed very well, and the first show was like that, and all the other shows were like that. So it was very nailed down. And I made a promise through that tour that I would never do that again. So slowly I moved towards where I was halfway there with post-tour and completely there with homogenic, that I gave people half things they could do, and the other half was space for them to grow and license to change things. Because most of all, if I have told everybody what to do and how to do it, I walk on stage and I'm bored stiff. You know, I'm like, it's death. So for me to walk on stage and I will sing something and then somebody will play something that I'd never thought of. It's like excellent, you know. And that's why you look forward to the next show, you know. Obviously on Vespertine tour, you couldn't go that far because you had an orchestra and you had a choir. So you can't be that spontaneous, you know. What was excellent about Zina and Matmos is they're very good at that. They could completely keep in line with the orchestra and the choir, but still kind of really, and I could hear with Matmos, like every show they had gone somewhere and found new sounds and new things, and just to be completely selfish, that was what kept me excited. You know, and with Zina and Matmos, those kind of spontaneous squirts.
You know, there is this world, it's the harp world of, you know, harpists, and I've always been quite apart from that, you know, because I didn't really study formally. I studied mostly on my own, so I was never really a part, you know, I didn't have a lot of friends that were harpists or anything like that. So I don't think it's that normal to be that aggressive with the instrument. I know there are a few people here and there that do more radical things, but for me, I think it's a very beautiful melody instrument, but I also think it's an incredible percussive kind of instrument as well. Just this like kind of fantastic sound maker, and not just a beautiful melody machine. So I love to approach it with putting both things into it.
when we started arranging live, we realized that we couldn't just put big PA or speakers on stage and blast those micro beats over and make them large to send them to the other end of the room, because it would change their character completely. They would become large again. So what we had to do was we had to put speakers in the back and make all the little beats travel around. So all of them would be quite quiet, but the audience would feel surrounded by many, many tiny things. I've had this craving to do this for so long, and I felt so many times when I did those big rock arenas that I mean, I'm probably exaggerating this, but that 60–70% of what we were giving out was just lost in some sort of a rock cliche or something. Like all the sensitivities were bulldozed over, and since I'm a sort of listener, that these are exactly the sensitivities that nurture me, or make me walk home from a gig and I'm fulfilled, you know. So I had this craving to do this for a very, very long time. So when I would step on the stage of the most intimate places and feel like everybody, I was singing personally for everybody in the room, it of course was quite scary, and you can't hide anything, you know. But also it was a craving I had had for such a long time that it sort of felt like a relief, sort of like a, you know. So I guess it was a combination of both. But I do like it, you know, the whole chocolate thing, to be able to do it really, really, really well with all the lushness possible, but also combined with the fact you've never done it, so it's very scary, and this sort of entering the unknown sort of adrenaline kick it's a turn on, you know, instead of just doing one more that you did last time. And also I started craving it myself to go to a concert where I have a comfortable seat and I can enjoy all the little details and nobody is in a hurry. You just sit there with your box of chocolates and then you can go and have a break and talk a little bit and you come back and the pace is very slow, you know. And for me, I don't know if it was a local joke between me and myself and maybe no one got the joke, but for me it was the biggest challenge, especially in the beginning of the tour, to just do a calm song and do another calm song and do another calm song and another calm song and then have a break. And to not, it's so like, I'm so programmed to just have a multiple orgasm on stage like in 3 seconds. And to kind of have to put all my energy into pacing myself for 2–3 hours and never peak or explode. Just kind of was very curious, you know. I just hope other people enjoyed it too.
I love him, 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 I love him. It's time. I'm gonna keep it to myself. It's time. I'm gonna keep him all to myself. till carry me away.
Every tour has been completely different. There's been tour that's been completely crazy, where everybody has had a nervous breakdown and everybody has fallen in love with everybody and split up and fallen in love again with other people, and it's been a complete soap opera. There's been other tours where everything was completely utopian and very, very happy, and everybody having out-of-body experiences and everybody coming out of the closets one way or another. I mean, touring is great. It can have a very strong effect on people, especially when they've been living in the same place for a long, long time and suddenly they tour the world, and it sort of becomes like a very explosive thing for their lives. They have to they see the rest of their life from another point of view, and they have to like tidy up, and they get into this kind of state of kind of urgency and kind of, and it can be a real excitement. I think Vespertine tour for me compared to the other ones was a very peaceful one. It was a very calm one, and maybe, I don't know, maybe without realizing it, I chose, because of the music, those kind of people that were very self-sufficient, very happy. There was no conflict on this tour. Well, I think I already put on the album everything I wanted to put, and I was very careful. I would be very in connection with the people that I wrote about. I truly believe that. I was very happy with how the concert happened. Like always, in the beginning, like when at the beginning of the post-tour, when I told, okay, I'm gonna have a pipe organ, an accordion, and live mixing, and voice on stage. And everybody would go, but you have like hundreds of thousands of people to play for it. Well, how are you gonna keep a crowd with an accordion and a pipe organ? It's a live mixer and a voice. And the things, you just push it and push it and push it, and it works. And then homogenic, I'm gonna take a string octet and 1 beats to the venues. And everybody's like, I mean, you're crazy, you know, it's a suicide, you know. So it's always sort of exciting, and I have to admit, I'm a bit of a junkie, that I want to do things that are sometimes I even fall into the trap to do them just because they're impossible or something, I have to say. But with Vespertine, I think there were definitely moments, and now that we mixed the Vespertine live album, that were better than the record. I think looking back on Vespertine now and having started my next project, it becomes more obvious what I was aiming for. Sometimes when you're in the middle, you don't see out. I think I was aiming for how you can express yourself when you are absolutely, you exploded 5,000 times and there's nothing left. And you're just lying there like the ruins of you, but you still want to make something, but you have no muscle and you have no blood, and you still want to create beauty, and that's supposed to kind of calm you and soothe you, and like hibernation, to wait until, to help you to wait until you become strong again. So I feel to a certain degree I've documented and mapped out all the sides of me, and Vespertine being the last side of me, and probably the one I have least in me. So doing homogenic, which is probably sort of more what is more extrovert, kind of more physical, outdoor me. And then knowing I wanted to also cover the other area of me, which is sort of more uncomfortable, like the moods You have when you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't sleep and you're on your own, and when you feel alienated or so more these kind of transparent moods. But I think like with everything I've done, especially when I have freedom to be very extreme in something, like say with Vespertine, to go all the way in that direction, it sort of means I get it out of my system and then I'm ready to turn to other things. I feel now very liberated that I've done Vespertine and I've done Homogenic, and I've sort of covered all the different areas that were always fighting inside of me. There were conflicts between my classical education, and I mean the easiest way was just to ignore it, but then taking it on and dealing with it, and conflicts with me as a vocalist, as a songwriter, as a collaborator, as somebody who wanted to work alone. There was like a lot of conflicts there, and to have sort of mapped and tried everything of the biggest things inside me once. It's done, it's documented, and now I have a clean slate. And as much as it's scary, it's also very, very exciting to have. I could do absolutely anything right now.